In a quiet hospital room, Chris lay in his bed, his body weakened by a life-threatening illness. He had once been a vibrant, energetic young man with dreams and aspirations, but that spirit had been crushed by the realization that his family had abandoned him. The only reminder of their presence was a flowering plant they had left behind, which now withered with each passing day, much like Chris's own hope. Chris spent his days staring at the stark white walls and ceiling of his room, his mind often wandering to the busy life outside that he could no longer be a part of. He watched as nurses and doctors hurried past his door, tending to other patients who seemed to have more to live for. The cold, sterile environment of the hospital, with its beeping machines and the distant murmurs of medical staff, only heightened his sense of isolation. Each morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the blinds, Chris would gaze at the plant, watching it lose its leaves one by one. He felt an acute pain of sorrow with each fallen leaf, knowing his own strength was fading in parallel. His health showed no signs of improvement. The constant pain and fatigue wore him down, making every breath and movement a struggle. He couldn't help but notice how other patients received regular visits from their loved ones, their rooms filled with laughter and voices of encouragement. He heard tales of miraculous recoveries and witnessed the joy of families reuniting, a stark contrast to his own isolation. Chris felt utterly alone, abandoned, and resigned to his fate. Every day, he stared at the plant, counting the leaves that fell. It became a ritual, a morbid countdown to his end. In his mind, he decided that once the final leaf dropped, he would give up on life altogether. One morning, he woke up and nervously looked at the plant. To his dismay, the last leaf had withered and fallen onto the table. Chris felt a wave of acceptance wash over him, ready to embrace his final day. He felt nothing but emptiness and despair, a void that seemed impossible to fill. Throughout the day, Chris recalls about the good moments in his life. He remembered the laughter of his childhood, the warmth of family gatherings during the holidays, the excitement of his first job, and the tender moments he had shared with his loved ones. These memories brought him a bittersweet solace as he prepared to embrace what he believed would be his final moments. As evening turned into night, Chris fell into a restless sleep, plagued by dreams of what could have been. He woke up in the middle of the night, hoping that his situation was just a nightmare. But the sight of the withered plant confirmed his grim reality. Just as he was about to sink back into despair, something miraculous caught his eye. Amidst the withered branches, Chris noticed a tiny flower bud resting on the top of the plant. His heart, heavy with despair, was suddenly filled with a spark of hope. He realized that he had been too focused on his suffering and had almost given up, much like the fallen leaves. Without realizing it, the tiny bud became a sign of hope in the darkest times. Morning came and the tiny bud had blossomed into a beautiful flower. Chris held on to this newfound hope, determined to fight for his life just as the plant had. His spirits lifted, and he resolved to embrace each day with a renewed sense of purpose. To his surprise, later that day, Chris's family arrived at the hospital, accompanied by a specialist renowned for treating his illness. They had been searching for a way to help him and had finally found a breakthrough treatment. Their faces, once filled with regret and sorrow, now shone with determination and love. With the support of his family and the expert care of the specialist, Chris began his journey to recovery. Day by day, his health improved, and the bond with his family grew stronger. The once fractured relationships were mended with love and understanding. Chris's room, once filled with despair, now echoed with laughter and hope. Months passed, and Chris continued to make progress. His strength returned, and his outlook on life transformed. He no longer saw his illness as a curse, but as a journey that had taught him valuable lessons about resilience, hope, and the power of love. Thank you for listening to my short story audiobook. If you like my video, please click the like and subscribe button. Until next time.